I recall that day as if it were engraved into my brain in the sharpest way conceivable. I was driving with Celeste, my wife, on what was expected to be a simple road trip after visiting her sister. The road was long and desolate, and the late early sun threw long shadows on the asphalt. However, something felt off from the start. Celeste had been smirking all morning, a smile that was too coy and hidden. It was as if she were hiding a truth from me, a revelation that would demolish everything I believed about our life together. I attempted to wipe away that uneasy sensation, convincing myself that maybe she was just joking. But deep inside, I sensed danger brewing. We pulled into a decrepit gas station far off the highway, a location that looked forgotten by time. The station was practically abandoned. The pumps were corroded and silent, and the modest building's flickering neon sign did little to lighten the fading concrete. As soon as we parked, Celeste glanced at me with that same uncomfortable smile and said, in a voice so lovely it bordered on false, "Go grab me a coffee, babe." Her tone was light, almost taunting, and I felt a shudder slide up my spine. I shrugged off the increasing nervousness and strolled inside to fetch the coffee, unaware that I was about to cross the threshold into a nightmare. Inside the gas station, the air seemed heavy and stagnant. Every step I took echoed in the emptiness, a continual reminder that I was alone. I filled a paper cup with coffee, the hot liquid barely cutting through the chilly dread that was developing in my gut. I glanced at the worn old clock on the wall and wondered how long I would be gone from Celeste before I eventually pushed open the door to return. My heart hammered as I surveyed the area for her familiar figure, but there was nothing. No trace of Celeste, no indication of our car. Even my personal possessions had vanished into thin air. My wallet, my bag, my phone, they were all gone. Then, as I stood frozen in shock, my phone buzzed. I tried to fetch it and saw a text message that sent a wave of terror pouring over me. "Let's see how long it takes you to go home. Consider this a fun challenge." The message was mocking, filled with a brutality that I had never imagined, from the woman I once loved. I tried to call her, eager for an explanation, but every ring ended in an empty, echoing voicemail. In that gut-wrenching moment, a cold understanding gripped me. I wasn't going home. Not to Celeste. Not ever. I stood, there on the desolate lot, my fingers still trembling as I held the now cold coffee cup. Every memory of our shared past, the laughing, the whispered secrets, the dreams we once dreamed together, turned sour on my lips. I felt betrayed and abandoned, as if my entire existence had been a terrible delusion. The petrol station, with its fading paint and sad silence, became a grim metaphor for the void Celeste had left behind. I quickly grasped that this was no ordinary road trip disaster. I had been set up, tricked by the person I had trusted most, and now I was forced to confront a future filled with doubt and heartbreak. The lonely breeze moved the dry leaves at my feet, echoing the havoc in my heart as I took my first step into a life I never chose. A life where every time would remind me of that fateful desertion and the betrayal that transformed everything forever. I stood there on the cracked pavement of that forlorn gas station, holding a cup of coffee that was losing its warmth as rapidly as my hope was melting away. The cold metal of the handle bit into my palm, and with every shudder that ran down my spine, I felt the weight of treachery press down on me. I couldn't believe that I had been abandoned in that forsaken place, not by coincidence, but by the deliberate malice of the woman I once adored. Celeste had always claimed that her harsh techniques were her way of teaching me life lessons. But here, in this heart-wrenching moment, her lessons left me broken. I was alone, with nothing but my fading memories and a sad sense of loss. My mind swirled as I revisited every instant of the morning, her sly smile as she urged me to fetch a coffee, the way her eyes sparkled with secret mirth, and that gut-wrenching understanding that I was being fooled, Every detail ached like a new cut. I recalled the $160 in my pocket from a previous halt, a meager amount that in any other scenario could have meant little. But now, it marked the only trace of a life that had abruptly been stripped away. My rucksack was still in the van, my money, my phone. Everything I always held dear had fled into thin air, leaving me with nothing except the bitter taste of betrayal. The despair of the empty highway surrounding me reflected the emptiness I felt inside. I stepped away from the counter, my thoughts swirling. I sought answers in the silence that encompassed the station. Each step seemed heavy as I tried to piece together the shards of my shattered world. As I walked back to the car, the chilly wind ripped through my hair and carried with it echoes of old memories, of laughing and shared dreams that now felt like faraway illusions. I wondered how life could become so dark so swiftly. One minute, I had been a man with a future, and the next, a stranded soul dealing with the vestiges of a false love. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let this betrayal define me. But the rage was strong. I tightened my hands, feeling a strange mix of sorrow and defiance welling up from deep inside. The pain was not simply for the loss of my belongings, but for the shattering of trust that I had once believed was unbreakable. I stood at the crossroads of pain and resolution, knowing that from this point forward, nothing would ever be the same. Every footstep reverberated with the promise of retribution, and every gust of breeze spoke a message of the past I wished to forget. With each slow, measured breath, I made a secret pledge. I would not allow Celeste's betrayal to govern my destiny. I vowed then and there that I would tackle the uncertain road ahead with fortitude and commitment, even if it meant leaving behind the remains of a life I once knew. I stepped out from the station and onto the empty road, my pulse thumping in tune with my unsteady feet. In that moment of misery, as I embraced both the anguish and the promise of a future unbound from the constraints of deceit, I felt the first stirrings of a new beginning, a beginning that, while steeped in grief, would forge a path toward a life, marked not by betrayal, but by resilience and the hard-won lessons of a wounded heart. Every mile I took became a silent testament to the reality that, even in the darkest periods, the human spirit can find a way to fight back and rebuild from the wreckage of a shattered past. I wept in silence, the pain of a love lost and a life undone. Yet in that calm moment, I also saw the promise of rejuvenation, a chance to rebuild my life brick by brick, free from the shadows of deception. I knew the road ahead would be laden with struggle, but I was prepared to walk it with a calm heart and a clear mind. The diner, the rain, and the stillness, resolution inside me, all indicated the beginning of a new chapter. One where I would finally reclaim control and let go of the past that had once held me captive. The next morning, I sat at my office desk examining some documents. Then, the unexpected happened. The glass doors of the conference room parted, and there she was, Celeste, my former wife, followed by a man I hardly recognized. His presence marked him as her new spouse, Mark. I felt a chill, as if the room's warmth had suddenly vanished. I had heard whispers about Celeste remarrying, but nothing prepared me for the shock of seeing her standing there, fake tears in, her eyes wearing a forced smile that did little to mask the desperation beneath. Her gaze hooked onto mine through the clear glass, and in that moment, every lie and every betrayal of the past came flooding back. I remembered the lonely gas station, the abandonment, the harsh text messages, the chilling knowledge that my life had been wrecked. And now, here she was, back in my life, expecting me to take on her worries without a second thought. "Oh my God, look at you," she gasped, her tone mingling astonishment with something else, something I could almost place as guilt. "I knew you'd be successful." Yet her voice, once filled with promises of love and insecurity, now sounded hollow and rehearsed. I remained seated, my face set with a facade of calm that barely masked the storm raging inside. "Sit down," I said, my voice steady, but laced. With a note of chilly finality, Mark shuffled uneasily beside her, his discomfort clear as he avoided my gaze.